Hi everyone, welcome to today's show, and I'm really, really excited to be joined by Mildred Talabi. She's a visibility expert who helps professionals and entrepreneurs to elevate their presence online. She's passionate about helping people unlock their true potential and build authentic, impactful visibility that drives results. Mildred, it's great to have you on the show.
It's great to be here, Charlene. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Fantastic. So I want to just get stuck in, right? I know from a past episode that you're an introvert. I think that might be beneficial to a lot of people that listen here because we're all about sales operations and revenue operations. And whilst it's not a specific introvert industry, um, I have met many people who are neurodivergent that are in this industry. And so that kind of lends itself to what could be seen as shyness. And it's not actually shyness, it's just a bit of a disconnect between general society's expectations and what we can provide and where we receive energy. So the first question I want to ask you is, we know, like, it doesn't matter what the platform is, but I think I'd like to focus on LinkedIn today. LinkedIn's supposed to be a professional platform, but it does seem like many of the posts that get the most views, and I don't mean by the biggest players, but the ones that get the most views, the most impressions, either seem to be ones that are particularly controversial or incite anger in some way, or very, very general, like, here's a picture of my dog kind of a situation. There doesn't seem to be much in between unless you're already, big in the field. So for people who, like myself, to be perfectly honest, I don't have my own personal, like, social media anymore. They still exist. I just don't post anything on them. Um, how does one get comfortable posting general stuff, social stuff, when one isn't engaging in small talk in any other area of their life?
Wow.
It's a big thing. Apologies. But
Talking
hey,
about
we're
deep
getting in the
dive
middle
on
of
the
it.
first question, right?
Yeah, yeah, we're going in. We're going in.
Okay. So there's so many things you brought up there, and I'm gonna try and remember to touch the ones that I'm like, in
Yeah,
my head.
whatever flow.
Yeah. So I think the place I would start with there is I'm all about building a personal brand online. So I love to, my work is to encourage women, to teach them, to show them, to coach them, and guide them to build a personal brand on LinkedIn in particular. So now the whole essence of a personal brand is that you cannot build a personal brand without some form of personality, which means some element of yourself involved. Now, which means that sometimes people have this idea that they have to keep their business, I have to have a business. And I don't know if this is how you have it set up, Charlene, where it's like you have a business persona, but as you just said, but there's no personal side of it. So everything is all business. And the reason I caution against that is because people don't do business with people with logos and with brands and all of that. People do business with people essentially. So especially if you're a solopreneur or if you have some kind of service business, people are not just buying into what it is that you're selling because there's loads and loads of people who do LinkedIn coaching. There's loads and loads of people who do sales training. There's loads of accountants. There's loads of whatever field you're in. There are hundreds, thousands of people doing what you do. Now, the thing that sets you apart from everybody else is you. And that's your unique selling point. So you are your unique selling point. Nobody can do you like you. So, which is why you have to show up with a bit of your own personality in order to build a personal brand successfully. Because people, the process of social selling is that people come to know you, like you, and trust you. And in order to do that, there's that element of you. They have to know you beyond just your work. They have to like you from what they see of you, and then from there they begin to trust you. So I'm gonna make it clear though that when I say know you, this doesn't mean that you put out any and everything about your life out there for the public. I'm not talking about that. It's good to have some boundaries. I have boundaries. I'm a private person, but I also understand PR because my whole career is PR, media, all of that kind of stuff. So I understand that it's important that you put out some things about you, but you also maintain some privacy so you can draw your own boundaries. So for me, for example, I rarely post about my kids, my husband and my kids, you know. So maybe wedding anniversaries, I'll share stuff. Rarely post about my kids. And when I do, you're gonna see a picture of the back of their heads. You know, not a picture. You know, I don't share photos of my kids online on my platforms because for me that's a boundary between my privacy and what's out there for the public. However, I'm more than happy to share with you about books that I read, places that I go, you know, that kind of stuff. I don't know if I happen to have a some food I eat that's relevant in the way in something that relates to my brand and I share about it, I can do that. But these extra bit of things, like you said, Charlene, I've shared many times I'm an introvert, you know, and that's like, and by the way, it's a real bugbear that people mistake that for shyness. Is not the same thing, you know, but it's like these are things that allow you to get to know me. And then from getting to know me, you decide. Some people be like, hey, I like Mildred. And I've had people, clients in the past who've said to me when I used to do my LinkedIn lives more often, they've said to me, Mildred, I seeing you out there all in yourself with your natural hair, all of that kind of stuff just really spoke to me in a way no other LinkedIn coach has never done before. Because what they saw was me being me, and that's what drew them. So, what your audience needs to see is you being you. So, that is really essential that you build a personal brand around who you are, and that means that some element of yourself has to be involved in the process. So I'm just gonna pause there because I know there's a lot that I've just said now, in case you want to come back at me on some of these things. But essentially, you need your own personality. You need to show some personality and some humanness in order to build a successful brand. And that's why posts like that work because people don't just want, oh, here are 10 tools on how to sell effectively. Here are 15 ways to do LinkedIn. You know, they want that, but every now and again they want to hear that, oh, you know, you did this thing, and they want to get to know you outside of just that theory part of what you do. So that's really important.
I'm loving all of this, and thank you so much. There's so much there already for people just listening to the first couple of minutes. That was amazing. And so I'm now thinking, I have something in my world called a maturity model. So when it's basically how businesses grow and what their internal organization looks like. And I don't just mean like team structure, I mean like how communication works, how messy things are, because obviously businesses have to grow. And so therefore things are messy in some areas and then they just get better and better and better over time. And that's come to my mind because I'm wondering if maybe that's how we have to treat where we are building our brands, maybe that's how we have to treat our brands and the posts that support it. We have to treat it as something that progressively grows with us. So it's so when we're younger, as it were, professionally speaking, or we're just starting out, maybe the balance between social, more engagement posts is in one direction, and that changes as things get on. Because when you listen to some gurus, they will basically just say, well, you've got your educational posts, you've got your story posts, but all about the business. And you put a tiny bit of your personality into those posts. Or if you do a personal posts, then you have to do the bit three-quarters of the way through where it says, and this is how it relates to my business. And it's a very, very firm demarcation.
Mhm.
And we laugh at all of these different versions, but I don't even have a question here. I kind of feel like I wonder if there is a maturity model for the balance of social versus educational, social versus professional posts that one must do if they're posting for their business that happens over time. Is that something that you've seen?
So I would say that we our brands we do evolve, you know, over time kind of thing. And this is why I literally my the this week's episode of my podcast is where I spoke about this part of what I spoke about is this whole thing about your personal brand is a currency that transcends your job roles, your business, your whatever it is, because it's a personal brand, it can evolve as you evolve. So for a long time, for over a decade, I was known as CV makeover expert because I built my brand around CVs and careers, etc. And my former business wrote books about it, all of that kind of stuff. And then I've evolved from that, and it's like most people don't even have a clue that I have books on job hunting and CV writing and things like that, because that was my former brand. But now my brand is something completely different. No, not completely, they're still related in a sense, but something different. So it has evolved. But in terms of that whole the social versus education, etc. It's like I always tell people, and I say to clients at the beginning, it's like you need to have a goal in mind. You need to have a goal, and if your goal is to grow your business using social media, then it's all good being very kind of posting about, hey, here's what I ate today, or here's what here's where I went and all of that. But if that's all you do and it has no relevance to your business, you might go viral, you may get lots of likes, you may get lots of engagement, but it will not translate into any tangible financial results for you. So you absolutely do need to have a balance. So I don't post on, I do, and I think the closest thing to what you're saying that I can probably identify with, there was a time I used to kind of post on Facebook. We're talking years and years ago, on just whatever, I'm watching, not Britain's Got Talent. What's that other one with Simon Cowell? Not The Voice, whatever, X
It
Factor,
was
that's the
that one,
one.
but one of them shows there.
Yeah, one of them reality shows, and I'll be there with my Facebook posts, like delving into the different contestants, like, oh, this one is this, or this one's voices, all of that, like just really just using these things, and Twitter at one point, just for a social platform, and it was good. It met a need back then. I needed to just express myself. But these days I don't do that. Like I give Facebook and all the other platforms my scraps from LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is my focus. But it's like I'm not on LinkedIn just because I have nothing better to do. I'm on LinkedIn because I'm strategically building my personal brand, but through being visible. And I know that doing that, coming out, showing up every day, sharing useful, valuable content with my audience is going to help build this know me, like me, trust me factor, which ultimately leads to people wanting to work with me, which it has done over the last few years and continues to do. But at the same time, I also know that you're not, if you're just out there to just kind of, and you've got this mindset, and I have a LinkedIn live discussion coming up in a few weeks with a LinkedIn friend of mine about this. If you've got this mindset of like kind of people are just lead generation, and it's just like get the leads, get the leads, get the leads. So you're stripping people of their humanity, and what you have to understand, that there's an element of relationship building that needs to happen on social media as well, where it's a two-way thing. In order for people to know you, like you, and trust you, you've also got to interact with them. You've also got to engage with them. You've also got to share a bit of yourself and also receive a bit of them, as in engaging in their comments and all of that kind of stuff. So in terms of balance, when I work with clients, I say to them, okay, listen, if you're going to put out 3 posts a week, which I recommend as the minimum, right? You don't have to do every day, as I post every day, every weekday, that is. But I recommend to anybody, if you're trying to build your brand, build your business, you need to post at least 3 times a week, right? But if you're going to do a 3-day-a-week schedule, make 2 of those like educational posts, in terms of that are really speaking to your area of expertise and giving value to your audience. And by value, because that's something that people often throw out there, oh, make sure you add value. But what it means by value is something that is useful for your audience, either that it entertains them, it educates them, it informs them, it gives them aha moments. Basically, it does something for your audience, not just for you. You get your reward putting it out there, because it's a bit of a dopamine high when you put stuff out there, or you're having a release, but it has to serve your audience in some way, and then when you do that consistently, so you do, let's say 2 out of your 3 posts a week, really do that. And then the third post, you can use that third post to share something a little bit more informal about yourself, or something that allows your audience to get to know you, get to know you outside of just the work arena. Because for some people, it's that personal stuff that will actually be the deciding factor between whether they choose you to work with or somebody else. Because it's like, oh, I like Mildred because she's an introvert like me, so she understands me. Oh, I like Charlene because she grew up in South London and that's where I grew up. I'm not saying you did. I don't know where you grew up, but just that whole
I
example
did.
of, you did
Just
you?
so, yes, I did. I grew up in Croydon.
Oh wow, look at that. Look
No,
at that.
it's all. I was on a networking call the other day with a dude, and he could tell what school I went to by my accent. He could figure it out. It was insane. Please
Oh
continue.
my gosh. Wow, wow. I grew up in East London, but yeah, so but I lived in South London quite a while. So yeah, there's that connection. But anyway, those are those little nuances. So even now, I could connect with you extra on that because it's like, yeah, I know Croydon. I used to go to Croydon Whitgift Centre, all of that kind of stuff, I know it quite well. So there's a point of connection that would not have come out if you just shared with me 10 statistics on how to do sales better using the latest lead generation formula. So there is a place for personal posts, but if that is all you do on a platform like LinkedIn, you might go viral, as I said, you might get engagements and it might make you feel good, but it's not going to translate into any tangible results for your business or your brand in the long run.
I completely get that. What would you say to the order of how things should work in the sense of there's, sales worlds, there's volume, value, velocity in terms of sales, the main things that you look at. And one of the things I've been thinking about is the reason why there's so much emphasis on views and going viral is because it's not just the metric in and of itself, even though that's what some people do chase because some people need to be seen. It's a thing. But the more people that can see you, the more of their friends that can see you because of the way the algorithm works. And then eventually, ideally, your client will be, it's easier for your client to find you because you just exist in a higher plane, as it were. Do you think there's some truth to that, or should people be trying to really focus in on their people? And if it gets to be a big thing, then, woohoo, accidental happiness.
I say chasing views, chasing engagement, chasing likes, and the keyword being chasing is the quickest way to burn out. It's the quickest way to burn out. It's the quickest way to lose your self-esteem, you know, because you could literally have a post today that goes viral, and then the very next day you put out another post and there's crickets. So it's like if that is how you define success, you are gonna have loads of big, massive mood swings, highs and lows that I don't wish on anybody. So a much better, a much more sustainable way of dealing with social media is to focus on crafting and creating content that really adds value to your audience. And then getting better at doing that. And to get better at doing that, you need to listen more. You need to, okay, what do my audience want? What do they need? And then you do need to, it is helpful to develop skills like writing better. Copyright, LinkedIn is a copywriter's paradise. If you're someone, it's not just being, if you can tell stories, if you're good at like getting to the point in with your words, you will do well on LinkedIn. But if you're not good at doing things like this and you're just authentic and you put things out there that really people can tell resonates, it's like comes from the heart and you're just being you, people like that also do well because there is a real, especially in this AI generation that we're walking into, there is a real craving for authenticity. Because if you look at, I go on my feed on LinkedIn sometimes and at least half the posts sound the same because everyone's using this, if it's not AI written, it's AI edited and it's all structured in this copyrighty way where it's like short paragraphs and you say this and it's just like, this is not your voice because it sounds like that other guy's voice and that other woman's voice. And so the authentic, the person who maintains the authenticity and writes in their voice and puts out content in their voice is going to build an audience over time around that because of the fact that people recognize and appreciate that authenticity. So I don't recommend chasing virality and likes and all of that kind of stuff because it's so unstable and it's so unpredictable as well. Yes, there are things that you can do, have a hook in the opening, do all of that kind of stuff, but you have to kind of always come back to that. What is the point? What is the point? What am I trying to achieve here? If I go viral and I get all these likes and that doesn't, do anything for my business, then what was the point? What is the point?
Because it
So
takes hours.
yeah.
It
Uh,
takes hours to get these stuff done,
yeah.
edited, and out there, particularly if you're not just doing text posts, even though that still takes some editing. The
Mhm.
videos. all of the editing, all of the let's go deep into all of this stuff and then do lots of different camera angles. And it's just like, yeah,
It's a
one
lot.
man band, one woman band, one person band. How are we supposed to get all of this done? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah,
Ah,
it is a lot.
no.
It's a lot. I've actually been watching a lot of I've watched two documentaries this past week on I'm kind of interested in influencers and all that kind of these are all about kid influencers, you know, on I think it was on Disney Channel, but just like the behind the scenes of some of this stuff to really get to the top. It's just crazy. I'm like, I don't want none of that. I don't want none of that because people don't realize like there is a lot of the ones who are doing it properly and who are getting those likes and those virals and they're being authentic. There is, as you say, there's a lot of effort that goes into it. And then you have the people who market it like there's no hard work involved. I'm gonna show you in how to just get 50,000 followers in 2 weeks using my simple strategy. Comment, like, and I'll send it to you. And people think, oh, it's as easy as getting this free ebook from this person, and then I'm gonna blow up and have all the money I want in the world and all the fame. It does not work like that. You have to put in the hard work. You have to do it consistently, and you have to play the game for the long term. Not just look for quick successes because that's not sustainable at all.
You're so very right there. And I think that's one thing. And even I've fallen for it. And I know me sales, but marketing isn't my strong suit. And so the whole, it can be done quite quickly, which is what every single person is saying, most likely, like 96% of people out there, it really isn't. Marketing is a slow burn simmer all over the place unless you've got tons of money to put into advertising
Mhm.
and like particular people who can introduce you to their audience. A lot of marketing channels, it's slow burn. It takes a long time. And when you're putting in a lot of effort for a long time and you don't see anything, that is, like you say, that's how it can burn you out. And one of the
Mhm.
things that you've said there a few times is consistency. And this is one of the things that I want to make sure I re-say with the audience because I've said it a few times as well. Consistency looks different for different people. For some people, consistency is doing the same thing every single day. For others, it's doing the same things at certain times of the same of a month. In the first week of the month, these are the things that you can do. Second week, these are the things that you can do. Consistency is different for different people. It's what can you do for the long term? If you're doing this activity, can you do it for 3 months? Can you do it for 6 months? If you don't think you can do it for 3 months, it's probably not the right one,
Mm.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's tough to think about. And one of the things that you're talking about again there with seeing everybody's posts and it looking the same, I think that's why I've had so much difficulty commenting on some people's posts because I'm thinking there's nothing, there's no human there for me to talk to.
Mm.
So, and I'm not just about to post rubbish because that's like painful, right? Just like, oh yeah, cool, great. Like, nah. It's not enough for me to just post something just so that my name pops up. So I think one of the things that I was getting out of what you were saying when it comes to not making everything all chat GPT style and just editing a little bit of it is you can feel, or at least I can, you can feel the rhythm of somebody's writing.
Mm.
You can kind of hear their voice in it. And yes, some people do write differently from how they speak. But I can tell, like, when I have my videos that go on LinkedIn, the text post that comes along with that is coming from ChatGPT because my brain won't let me do the text post as well as do all of the editing for the videos. Like, that's the line I've had to draw. But I'm getting into writing more
Mm.
now. And I think I do see what you mean. I think the rhythm really does help. Um, I wanted to go back to one of the things that you were saying about again stripping people's humanity and just posting to get something from people. Can you speak a little bit more on that? Because one of the things that I and some of my work friends have also been noticing is some people just call it the bro marketing approach to
Mm.
the just get stuff and the money's just gonna come through. It feels like as if some markets have been so saturated with that kind of message that then trying to speak to potential clients and prospects from the market is more difficult because they're almost expecting to be shouted at. They're almost expecting to be have their fear triggered for them to be sold to. And so when we're now speaking like this, it doesn't come across as much because they're not sensitive to general conversation anymore. That's one
Mm.
of the things that we've been noticing is Have you seen it something like that?
What I've seen is that, and because I see these posts, and I'm like, oh God, here goes another, and you see how it starts. I've spent the last, 2 weeks gathering or how to, get 50,000 followers on LinkedIn in 1 week and make all of this money. And if you want it coming, you see at the beginning, and then inevitably I look down and there's like 1,000 likes and like 500 people going, yes, please, give me, give me, give me, give me, because people are hungry. People are hungry for success. People are hungry to achieve. And I will put my hands up. And in the beginning, especially in the earlier days, and kind of thing is like when I was still trying to figure things out. I've subscribed to some of those stuff. I've even tried some of that stuff myself. Hey, get my free this that. Just sign up here. Put your details here. And then it's like after going through different, not for very long, because I just realized this was not me. This is not authentic to who I am. And really, for me, authenticity, it might be an overused and overplayed word, but it is a word for me that I think is super important because it links to integrity. It's like, who are you really? Is this you, or is this a version of you that you think you need to put out there so that you can do it how everyone else is doing it? And the thing is, people eventually see through it, and even if they don't, really, you want to attract people who can see you for your authentic self and what you're offering, especially if you're working with clients. As I said, if you're selling a product, it may not be quite the same thing because products are like they're more transactional because someone's buying something, you're posting it, whatever, right? But if you're working with someone in a service business, either as a coach or a consultant, whatever, and you're working one to one, it's like it's a different dynamic altogether. So I have seen those things and I do see those things and they do continue to pop up. But the thing is, what I've also seen is that people are getting more and more marketing savvy and people are getting more and more weary of such marketing tactics. So people are being like kind of, yeah, I don't want that anymore. I don't believe you. I don't believe you anymore. I don't believe that I'm gonna make six figures in 6 days based on your formula. So actually, I'm gonna look for something that's more authentic, that isn't just offering these false promises or these one-off exposures out there for people. So I think my faith in humanity, I don't have a lot of faith in humanity, but my faith in humanity is that we do evolve and we do kind of get desensitized in a sense to those kind of marketing messages. So I think most people now roll their eyes when they get a pitch in their inbox that says, hey, random, addresses you randomly without your permission. Do you want to buy this, or do you want to book a call for this or what? And you're like, but who are you? I don't know you. And you think I'm just gonna, no, it doesn't happen like that. So I think the remedy for all of that is, as the person who's the one putting yourself out there for your business, stay true to yourself, be authentic, put out things that are in line with who you are and how you want to be represented in the world, and trust the process that honestly you will draw the right people to you. It may take longer than the 6 minutes that's promised on all these adverts. In fact, it may not, it will take longer. It will take a lot more because, as you say, consistency is something that you have to continue at it for at least a little bit to see some results. You never plant a seed in the ground and then go there tomorrow and there's a harvest. There's a process called a biblical concept. Agriculture is seed, time, and harvest. You plant the seed, there's a process of time, and then you reap a harvest. So this whole idea of shortcutting that time period, you plant the seed and you get a harvest, it's not true. It doesn't work. It's not how the world was set up to work. It's not how your business is going to work either. So please stop falling for it if you are.
Thank you for saying that because, and you were saying the exact words, it's a desensitization. And I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it across different platforms as well. And I consider myself to be a person of a high integrity and have also then, you think you're drawn to more people who they say the word authenticity. And then you spend a little bit of time with them and you're just like, where? Where is it? I'm looking. It's like, oh, you're saying it because it's a buzzword. You're jumping on that because it's a buzzword. And it's sad. I treat business, I love business. I treat it as a sport in the sense of like when you're playing a sport, I used to, well, I played a lot of sports, but I used to run track when I was younger. And it's about your skill and it's the training and things like that. And that's why I see business that way as well, because just like there's the quality of your offering, and then you want to get better at what you do, which is the whole operational efficiency. And it's just like, this is why I'm in sales ops and rev ops. Ta-da. So I go here. And then when you see people that have effectively taking a speed drug to,
Yeah,
they've
yeah.
tunneled underneath the track to get to the end. And it's just like, but you've just stolen from people. You're not actually offering anything of value. But it's the psychology around it. There's a lot of psychology around marketing and how you can hook people in and things like that.
Mm,
And to some point, some parts of it I understand and accept. Other parts make me feel quite icky though.
mm. But
Mm.
most of those people that are on those speed drugs in athletics, they
Yeah.
eventually get discovered, don't they? And what
Mm,
happens? They get stripped of those
yeah.
titles they won. There's a lot of public shame, embarrassment, all of that that comes with it. And it's like, was it worth it? Was it really worth it? And I'm hoping the answer is no,
Yeah.
in those situations.
And I also feel like I really enjoy business when when you do it naturally, like when you're preparing for a sport or whatever, like it's your thing. You enjoy the process. You might not want to be enjoying being in the gym or whatever, but if that's your thing, there's some enjoyment from it. Whereas I can't see how one can enjoy cheating.
And I actually think one of the things that leads people to do this is and again it's not something that's talked about often enough because business is often glamorized and we get the examples of the Zuckerbergs and Richard Bransons and oh look how well they did and all that, but it's like business is hard. Business can be hard, in terms, especially when you're starting out, you're figuring it out, and financially as well, when people have that financial pressure of my business has got to make money because that's the money that you're depending on to keep the roof over your head or put food on the table, then it sometimes it makes people do things that they may not do otherwise if they're comfortable and they're calm. And it's like there's a balance. I know some people will say, well, you need that adrenaline so you can really build the business. And then, but at the same time, there's an element of it where it's harmful. So, but there was a time when I used to advise people because I way back, I don't know, maybe like the first time I left the world of work fully to go into my own business, maybe about 13, 14 years ago. And at the time I was like, right, I'm never working for anyone again. That's it. I'm an entrepreneur. This is what I was born to do. Because at the time I was doing both like I do now. I was doing my business and I was also having my day job. And then I kept thinking, well, imagine if I could do my business full time, how much more successful would I be? How much more money would I
Mhm.
make? How much more? How much more? And you build up this whole how much more in your head. And then I did fully eventually leave work and it's like I had ups and downs, but 8 months later, my husband was begging me to go back to work. you know, it's
Yeah.
like, and even me, and in my pride, I was like, no, I can make this work. I'm an entrepreneur because I did have some good mums,
Mm.
and then I would have bad mums financially. But I know there was a huge difference way later on, many, many years later, when I did leave and I was in a better place financially. There's a huge difference when you're operating business with financial pressure and when you're not. It's
Yes.
like you don't have a choice who you take on as clients. You do anything marketing wise, and the worst part is your clients, your potential clients, they can feel the desperation. So it's actually off-putting anyway. So I think not everybody has to jump out straight away from full-time work into business and make it all happen like, right, I'm gonna make it all go from day one because it's not always gonna be possible. So maybe a more realistic thing, transition your way out. Stay in the job until that job is able to, until your business is able to replace your job income. And then you can smooth your way out. And then, so therefore, you don't have that pressure of, I need to make money in my business. Therefore, I'm going to do anything, even if it's not authentic to me, even if it's not integrity, something of integrity. I'm going to do it because I need to make money. That's a whole different energy that you're bringing to the business that you don't have to if you do it slightly differently anyway. So I thought it's important to just raise that up because I know financial
Completely.
pressures sometimes cause people to do things they wouldn't normally do.
Yeah. And then, if you're already feeling anxious about posting and being visible, then it feeds over, right? Because
Mm,
like one of the things that I speak on a lot is when it comes to your energy, I used to think of it as, just one battery. And no, I now think of it as different buckets of energy. Just
Mm,
like how people can finish work and then they'll have the energy to go to the gym, but they won't necessarily have the energy for a deep conversation or vice
mhm,
versa, right? And so you can spend energy doing one thing, but it fills up another energy bucket to do something else. And so I say all of that to say, when it comes to going for yourself, and one of the things that you want to be thinking about is what are your drivers and what are your supports? What is pushing you and what's pulling you? Because some people have the money to support them, but not the people. Some people have the
mm,
people, but not the money, you know? And then again, it's what's driving you. Is it the fame? Is it the public notoriety? Is it money? Is it because you want to build something? If you don't know what those energies are and you don't know how full the tank is in each of those in each of those areas, then that's how all of a sudden you realize that there's something missing. Because you
mm.
could have the money, but if you don't have the community, if you don't have people supporting you, then business is lonely,
Absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. It
Is
all
that
matters.
too? It all matters. So is there anything that you wanted to say today that you haven't said that you think people would benefit from hearing?
Oh, it would all have it would come back to my mantra of start being visible,
Yeah.
which is a message I can't go on about enough. Honestly, it's like sometimes we want to get it perfect before we start. We want to make sure that we're saying the right things or we're positioned ourselves perfectly or that kind of stuff. But more often than not, just start and perfect later because the growth is in the starting, in the movement. As you take the action and you start posting, put that one post out that you're not unsure about, put that second one out. I remember when I started making videos for LinkedIn because I'm a natural writer, I was practically born with a pen in my hand. So it's like when it came to making videos, I was like, oh no, 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 I don't do videos, but I ended up kind of because it was outside of my comfort zone, way outside of my comfort zone. So when I ended up making that shift and I started doing video, probably my first 20, 30 videos, I hated. I thought they were horrible. In fact, one of my early ones, I remember putting it out there, got decent response, but then I get this text message from my brother who I didn't even know was on LinkedIn, right? He was like, really great that you're doing videos. I loved it, but your camera was a bit blurry, you know? I
Thanks,
was
bro.
like, exactly, I was like, thanks. You don't know how much it took me to get that
Mhm.
video up, but it's like I had things like that. The camera was a bit blurry. I remember a time I'd put on a camera in front of my face and I'll be blinking like some maniac. Like, I'm like, what is up here, So it's just like, but gradually I got more and more comfortable. I got better and better at it to the point that I was doing LinkedIn even approached me. This is how I started getting on the path of this whole LinkedIn top voice and all that. LinkedIn approached me at the time. They had their LinkedIn live, which was still new at the time, and they're like, we've seen your videos, we love your videos, we want to give you access to do LinkedIn live. They paid for a whole year of like StreamYard and all that kind of stuff to get me going on LinkedIn Live. So this is somebody who was like, I don't do videos. I'm not a video person. I'm not good at videos to the point that LinkedIn allow, we love your videos. We want to give you access to do live videos. So you don't know what's going to happen if you don't take that first step.
Yeah.
Your next step is waiting for you to take that first step. So if your first step is to put that one post out, do that today. Start being visible today because it will pay off for your future if you stick at it.
Ah, thank you so much. Your next step is waiting for you to take your first step. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. The time went so quickly.
Absolutely did. No, thank you. I feel like it's really important. All the things that you raised are really important for us to talk about, discuss, and get it out there. So hopefully it helped one person today. If it did, then we did a great job. And that's all that matters.
That's fantastic. I'll also be putting your link in the show notes so people who are watching and listening, come and connect with us, come and chat with us, be in our comments. We're real people, we'll be there. So thank you so much for everybody watching and listening. Thank you, Mildred, for being here. I've loved this. We will be speaking again soon.
Thank you.